What's going on, everybody? I'm back with my 2010 Cadillac Escalade. I am doing a wheel bearing on the front of this. It was making a horrible noise lately and I parked it, jacked it up. The wheel looked like it was almost gonna fall off the car. So I've taken it off the road right now. I've been waiting a couple days to get the wheel bearing from Amazon, but I have it here now. So I'm gonna show you guys what I did to take this out, what you have to do to replace it. It's actually very simple. It's not a big deal. The link for the wheel bearings are gonna be in the description if you guys are looking for that. I only suggest buying AC Delco wheel bearings. That way it'll last another 200,000 miles. Buy the cheap brands. They're even more expensive than the AC Delco and they're not gonna last. So I suggest following the links to buy these. So I'm gonna jump in and show you guys what I've been doing. So here's my Escalade right here. As you can see, the right front wheel is off. I have everything out of the way. I did this the other day, waiting for the wheel bearing to come from Amazon. It was late, so I'm gonna finish this up today. If you guys have seen any of my other videos, you know that I live in New England, and so you know everything's rusty. I'm going to clean up this area right here where the wheel bearing goes in before I put it in. Obviously it's rusty, but if you guys don't live in New England or another state like this, then you guys should have a lot easier time. The wheel bearing came out very easily after I unbolted everything. I just hit it out with a hammer. It was not seized in there or anything, even though it does look pretty bad. I unbolted the CV axle right there, but it is hard to get out. I didn't want to take my whole shock out, the whole strut out, so I left that in, but I did unbolt it and moved it out of the way to be able to get this out. You want to move the CV axle out of the way to get to the 3 bolts on the inside. Otherwise, it's hard to get to those bolts. You have to get to them with a wrench. So I took that out just like this, and it was no big deal. It is a little hard to move that axle around, but it is still doable. It's not that big of a deal. So this is what I have going on right now. I'm gonna go inside the garage and show you guys the old wheel bearing and the new one. Obviously, old one, new AC Delco. This will probably outlast how long I have the vehicle. You can get this right on Amazon, get it in a couple days. I'm gonna leave the link for this in the description. You guys can look down below. These fit both the left and the rights on the front. The only weird thing about it in Amazon is that the title of this says it's a rear hub, but it fits the front. I don't know how they got the title mixed up, but this is the one, and I will link it in the description like I said. So this might be hard to see, but if you guys can see it and hear that, that's how loose this wheel was. It started making a grinding noise and a very, you know, hard metallic noise, and you can see how much that moves. I should have taken a video with the tire on, but I didn't. That's a bad wheel bearing. If your whole wheel shakes and moves around, then it's a bad wheel bearing. So that's how I figured out it was bad. So that was that, and the new one obviously is solid. There's nothing, you know, wrong with that. This right here is basically all the tools that I use to do this. Nothing crazy, all hand tools. The only big power tool or, you know, breaker bar you might need is for the axle nut. This has a very, very high torque spec on it. So I use my impact gun 36 millimeter socket to get that off. You definitely want to make sure that this is torqued to spec when you put it back on. So the order that I went in to take all this stuff out is the brake caliper has these 2 18 millimeter bolts that you need to take out to get the brake caliper out of the way. You then have, if you have the Torx headed bolt on the rotor, the brake rotor, a T30 socket to take that bolt out, get the brake rotor out of the way. There are these 6 bolts from the CV axle to the front differential. These are 15 millimeter. Take those out. Same thing with this. These are 15 millimeter bolts for the strut to the lower control arm. Get that out of the way. And then lastly, there are these 3 15 millimeter bolts that hold the wheel bearing on. Obviously they go in from the backside, but they go into the wheel bearing like that. So nothing, like I said, the only big power tool I used was the impact to get the axle nut off. Everything else was done by hand. I have, you know, the cordless ratchet right here, cordless impact snap-on stuff right there. I could leave the link for some Milwaukee stuff that you guys can buy from Amazon, and then just a regular, you know, hand ratchet, pry bar to get the strut out of the way. Ratcheting wrench right here, but it's all just basic hand tools. Especially if you guys don't live anywhere where things are rusty, you probably won't have any big deal, but even where I live, it was no big deal to take it out. It maybe took me a half an hour to get to get the whole wheel bearing out. Half an hour, nothing more than that. It'll probably take me, you know, less time to get the wheel bearing in. So that's about it. That's all that stuff right there. So I'm gonna go out there, start putting this in, and show you guys what I'm doing. All right, so that's the wheel bearing in there. You obviously want to make sure you put your disc brake shield in there, the dust shield. The ABS sensor is going to go through here. Put that all on like that. This will be routed up here. We'll put that in after that wire. But, you know, that's the wheel bearing in right now. It's obviously solid. Next, I'm going to get the CV axle back up in there, get the strut bolted back on. But this is obviously not going to be, you know, a very long project. This is a pretty easy project to do. So I'm just going to keep going, do the CV axle next, then the strut. All right, so we have the CV axle all bolted up. We got the strut all bolted up. We got obviously the bearing all bolted up. We're gonna run this wire after we move the brake caliper out of the way. So now we're gonna tighten this down. This is, you know, a super high torque bolt, so you want to make sure you have a torque wrench or, you know, a huge breaker bar to get that as tight as possible. Obviously it needs to be at the proper torque spec. So just make sure you guys have enough of you know, power or a torque wrench to be able to do that. So now everything is on there. Brake caliper's on there with the 2 bolts. Brake rotor with the 1 Torx right there. Got the strut, obviously we already talked about. I ran the wires. The wire clips right here. These new clips are come with the new wheel bearing. The other one clips on top of the upper control arm, and then the ABS wire clips in right there. So that is all in. I'm gonna spray this down with some brake clean, get that rust off, everything, put the tire back on, the wheel back on, and we are all set to go. So that's about it. Wasn't that hard to do. As you can see, just proper hand tools, you know, no crazy specialized tools at all. The one big thing to have is something that'll get that axle nut to the proper torque specs. But other than that, it's just a bunch of hand tools. I probably just did that in 20 minutes and, you know, trying to make the video at the same time. So it's not that hard of a job to do, very easy to do in your driveway. My 2008 Tahoe, I've done both wheel bearings on that. You want to do wheel bearings at the same time. So I'm going to order up another one to do the left side. I just needed to do this one because I need to be able to drive my vehicle. So I'm going to do that probably in the next week or 2. Like I said, the link for this AC Delco wheel bearing will be in the description. This should fit, you know, all the 2007 to 2014 full-size GM SUVs and probably the trucks. Make sure you look up to make sure that that part number fits your car, but that link will be in the description. You guys can click it right there. Anything you buy will help out this channel, be able to make more videos on the Escalades and the other full-size GM. So I appreciate if you guys buy anything through my links. If you guys have any other questions or comments, let me know. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.